The space station called Sanctuary Point floated silently in the darkness between stars. Inside its massive halls, representatives from hundreds of alien species had gathered for an important meeting. This was the Galactic Coalition, and today they would decide if humans could join their ancient organization. Maya Brooks walked toward the speaking platform with steady steps. She wore her military uniform, dark blue with silver stars on her shoulders. At 26 years old, she was young for such an important job. Her brown hair was pulled back tight and her blue eyes stayed focused straight ahead. She carried a small data pad with her prepared speech, though she had memorized every word. The assembly hall was enormous. Creatures of all shapes and sizes filled the seats that rose up in circular tiers around the central platform. Some looked almost human. Others were so strange that Maya had needed weeks of study just to learn their basic biology. The air smelled different here, filtered and processed to accommodate dozens of different species. Soft lights came from everywhere and nowhere, casting no shadows. Maya reached the platform and placed her data pad on the speaking stand. She looked out at the sea of alien faces watching her. Some seemed curious. Others looked bored. A few appeared hostile. She took a slow breath and began to speak. She talked about Earth and its people. She explained how humans had finally achieved faster-than-light travel 5 years ago. She described human culture, their art and music, their science and philosophy. She spoke about the wars humans had fought among themselves and how they had finally learned to work together. She promised that humanity wanted only peace and friendship with the other species of the galaxy. Her voice was clear and confident. She had practiced this speech hundreds of times. Every word was chosen carefully to show that humans were ready to join the larger galactic community. She talked for 20 minutes, covering everything Earth's diplomats had prepared. When she finished, there was polite silence. A few species made sounds that might have been approval. Others simply waited. Maya remained at the platform, as protocol required, waiting for questions or comments. That was when General Krathazar stood up. The Vraxian general was massive. He rose from his seat in the front section, and his body seemed to unfold upward and outward. He stood nearly 3 meters tall, his body covered in dark scales that looked like polished black stone. He had 4 arms, each one thick with muscle. His head was angular and reptilian, with eyes that glowed a dull red. When he moved, his scales made a soft rustling sound like dry leaves. General Krathazar did not look at Maya at first. Instead, he addressed the entire assembly. His voice was deep and loud, filling the hall without any need for amplification. He spoke in the common trade language that all coalition members used. He talked about the Vraxian Empire and its long history. He reminded everyone that the Vraxians had been a spacefaring species for over 3,000 years. He listed their military victories, their conquered territories, their powerful fleets. He spoke about tradition and strength and the importance of respecting those who had earned their place in the galaxy through centuries of proven capability. Then he turned to look at Maya. His red eyes fixed on her, and Maya felt the weight of his gaze. She stood perfectly still, her hands clasped behind her back in a military rest position. She kept her face neutral, showing no emotion. She had been trained for situations like this. General Krathazar gestured toward her with one of his 4 hands. He asked the assembly why Earth had sent a child to represent them. He pointed out her youth, her small size, her obvious lack of experience. He wondered aloud if humanity was truly ready for the responsibilities of coalition membership, if this was the best representative they could produce. Some of the alien delegates shifted, uncomfortably in their seats. Others nodded in agreement. A few looked at Maya with something that might have been pity. The general continued. He walked closer to the platform, his heavy steps making soft sounds on the floor. He said that the Vraxian Empire had warriors who had been fighting battles before humans had even discovered how to make fire. He asked what this young female could possibly know about strength, about sacrifice, about the realities of maintaining order in a dangerous galaxy. He spoke about human history, about their countless wars with each other. He mentioned how humans had nearly destroyed their own planet multiple times. He questioned whether a species so violent and self-destructive should be trusted with access to the greater galaxy. Perhaps, he suggested, humans needed more time to mature. Perhaps they needed guidance from older, wiser species. Perhaps they needed to be protected from themselves. The insults were wrapped in diplomatic language, but their meaning was clear. General Krathzar was saying that humans were children, that Maya was a child, that Earth should be grateful if the Coalition allowed them any role at all, even a subordinate one. Maya listened to every word. She watched the general pace back and forth. She noted which parts of his speech got reactions from which species. She observed everything and revealed nothing. When General Krathzar finally finished, he returned to his seat. The gesture was dismissive, as if Maya was not worth any more of his valuable time. He had made his point. Now the assembly would vote, and it seemed clear that many were swayed by his words. The chamber fell silent again. Everyone waited to see how the human representative would respond. Would she argue? Would she plead? Would she leave the platform in humiliation? Maya remained exactly where she was. She waited for 3 full seconds, letting the silence stretch. Then she took one deliberate step forward, moving closer to the edge of the platform. The movement was small but somehow significant. It changed something in the air of the room. When she spoke, her voice was quieter than before, but somehow everyone could hear her clearly. "General Krathzar," she said, looking directly at the massive alien warrior. "I accept your challenge." Confusion rippled through the assembly. Several species made questioning sounds. Others leaned forward in their seats. General Krathzar's scaled head tilted slightly, his red eyes narrowing. He had not issued a challenge. He had simply expressed his contempt. But Maya stood there calmly, as if she had heard something different. As if she knew something nobody else in the room knew. The general's mandibles clicked together, a Vraxian expression of amusement. He was curious now despite himself. What was this human girl doing? Maya's face remained calm and professional. Behind her back, her hands were steady. Inside her chest, her heart beat at a controlled, measured pace. She had trained her entire adult life for this moment. Everything that happened next would determine not just her own fate, but the fate of every human being alive. She waited for General Krathzar to respond, knowing that he would. His pride would not let him ignore her words. And when he did respond, she would spring the trap that Earth's best strategic minds had spent months preparing. General Krathzar stared at Maya for a long moment. His forearms shifted position, a Vraxian gesture that indicated puzzlement mixed with interest. Around the assembly hall, delegates whispered to each other in dozens of different languages. The human girl had said something unexpected, and nobody was quite sure what it meant. Maya remained at the platform, her posture unchanged. She looked small and fragile compared to the towering alien general, but there was something in the way she stood that suggested she was not afraid. She waited patiently for him to respond. Finally, General Krathzar spoke. His voice carried a note of amusement, as if he was dealing with a confused child who had misunderstood a simple situation. "I issued no challenge, human. I merely stated facts about your inadequacy and your species' lack of readiness for coalition membership. There is nothing to accept." Maya nodded slowly, acknowledging his words. Then she took another small step forward. When she spoke, her voice was respectful but firm. On Earth, General, when one warrior publicly questions another warrior's competence and honor, it is understood as a challenge. Perhaps our cultures differ in this regard, but I believe the principle is the same across many species. You have stated before this entire assembly that I am inadequate, that humans are unworthy. I propose that we settle this matter through demonstration, rather than continued debate. Several delegates made sounds of interest. This was becoming more entertaining than anyone had expected. A few species who understood human culture better than others began to realize what Maya was attempting. General Krathzar's scales rippled in what might have been surprise or annoyance. He stood up again, his massive form rising to its full impressive height. "What sort of demonstration do you suggest, human child?" Maya's expression did not change. She had prepared for this exact moment. Her voice remained calm and clear. "A test of combat skill. Single combat between you and me, following rules that we both agree upon. Not a fight to the death, but to submission or until one of us cannot continue. If I lose, humanity will withdraw our application for coalition membership. We will accept status as a protectorate under whichever species is willing to claim responsibility for us." The assembly hall erupted in noise. Dozens of species began talking at once. Several delegates stood up from their seats, objecting immediately. The idea was absurd. The physical difference between Maya and the general was enormous. It would not be a contest, but a slaughter. The Coalition Arbiter, an ancient being who served as the Assembly's neutral referee, raised one withered hand. Silence gradually returned. The Arbiter's voice was thin with age but carried authority. The human representative proposes a physical contest against General Krathzar. This is highly irregular. Lieutenant Commander Brooks, surely you understand the physical disparity involved? Maya turned to address the Arbiter directly, showing proper respect for the ancient being's position. I understand completely, honored Arbiter. I make this proposal with full knowledge of the General's capabilities and my own. I believe it is the clearest way to demonstrate whether humanity deserves respect and membership, or whether we are as inadequate as the General suggests. The Arbiter studied her for a long moment, then looked toward General Krathzar. The massive Vraxian warrior was watching Maya with new interest. His red eyes glowed brighter, and his mandibles clicked together repeatedly, a sign of active thought. Maya turned back to face the General. She knew what she was doing. She was manipulating him, using his pride and his culture against him. Vraxians valued strength and direct confrontation above all else. They respected warriors who faced challenges head-on, even impossible ones. If the General refused to fight her, he would appear weak before the entire coalition. He would be the mighty warrior who was afraid of one small human female. General Krathzar seemed to reach the same conclusion. A sound came from deep in his chest, something between a growl and a laugh. You have courage, human, even if you lack sense. Very well. I accept your proposed contest. But if we are making wagers, I will add my own terms. When I defeat you, humanity will not only withdraw their application, but Earth will also provide the Vraxian Empire with complete information about your planet's defenses and military capabilities. Maya did not hesitate. She nodded once, accepting his addition. Then she added her own counter-term. And when I win, General, the Vraxian Empire will sponsor humanity's membership in the coalition. You will provide full military protection and support during our probationary period. The General's laugh was louder this time, booming through the hall. The idea of this tiny human defeating him was so absurd that he found it genuinely funny. Around the assembly, various species reacted differently. Some found the whole situation disturbing. Others were fascinated. A few began quietly placing bets among themselves. Agreed, General Krathzar said, still amused. These terms are acceptable. Shall we proceed immediately? The Arbiter intervened again. The ancient being explained that formal combat required proper preparation. The arena needed to be configured. Medical staff needed to be ready. Both participants needed time to prepare themselves. The contest would take place in 3 days, giving both sides time to make arrangements and allowing the event to be properly broadcast across coalition space. Maya agreed to these terms. So did General Krathzar, though he seemed disappointed not to settle matters immediately. The Arbiter formally recorded the agreement and its conditions. Both participants were required to acknowledge verbally that they understood the stakes and accepted them freely. Both did so. As the assembly adjourned, Maya stepped down from the platform. Immediately, her fellow human delegates rushed to her side. Captain Alex Wright grabbed her arm, his face showing alarm and confusion. Maya, what have you done? Have you lost your mind? That thing will kill you. Commander Lisa Parker was right behind him, equally distressed. She spoke in an urgent whisper, trying to keep their conversation from being overheard by nearby aliens. We need to contact Earth immediately. We need to find a way to cancel this. Medical emergency, diplomatic incident, anything. This is suicide. Maya looked at both of them calmly. She kept her voice low but steady. Trust me, this outcome was anticipated. It is actually one of our better scenarios. Alex stared at her like she had grown a second head. Lisa's mouth opened and closed without sound for a moment before she found words. Better scenarios? Maya, that general has been fighting wars since before our grandparents were born. He is 3 times your size and has 4 arms. What possible preparation could make this anything other than a disaster? Maya glanced around, making sure no one was close enough to hear clearly. Then she met their eyes, and something in her expression made both of them stop talking. My service record shows what Earth wanted the Coalition to know about me. The truth is more complicated. I need you both to trust me for 3 more days. Can you do that? Alex and Lisa looked at each other. They had served with Maya for 2 years. They knew she was competent, intelligent, and brave. But this seemed beyond any of those qualities. This seemed impossible. Still, they were military officers. They understood chain of command and trust. Finally, both nodded, though neither looked happy about it. Maya smiled briefly, grateful for their faith. Then her expression became serious again. I need to train. Please handle the diplomatic communications and keep everyone calm. Tell Earth that everything is proceeding according to plan. Use authorization code Delta 7 when you send the message. They will understand. She walked away, leaving her colleagues standing in the corridor, confused and frightened for her. Behind her she could hear General Krathzar laughing with his fellow Vraxians, already celebrating his certain victory. Around them, the station buzzed with news of the upcoming contest. Maya returned to her quarters and closed the door. Only then did she allow herself a moment of doubt, a brief acknowledgement of how dangerous the next 3 days would be. Then she pushed the doubt away. She had been trained for this. She was ready. She just needed to make sure the general never realized it until it was too late. Maya spent the first 6 hours after the confrontation sitting alone in her quarters. She sat cross-legged on the floor with her eyes closed and her breathing slow and controlled. This was not rest. This was preparation. Her mind moved through everything she knew about Vraxian biology, combat tactics, and psychological patterns. She visualized the upcoming fight 100 different ways, planning for every possibility. Outside her door, Alex and Lisa took turns standing guard, though no one had threatened Maya directly. They were worried and confused, but they followed her instructions. They sent the coded message to Earth and waited for a response. When it came, the reply was brief and cryptic. It simply said that the Home Office had confidence in their field representative and that all protocols should be followed. Alex read the message 3 times, trying to find hidden meaning. Lisa checked the authentication codes twice to make sure it was genuine. Both of them realized that Maya had been telling the truth. This had been planned somehow. Earth's leadership knew what she was doing, even if her fellow officers did not. When Maya finally emerged from her meditation, she looked calm and focused. She found Alex and Lisa in the common area of their shared quarters. Both jumped to their feet when she entered. We got the response from Earth, Alex said. They approved your actions. Maya, what is really going on? Maya sat down in one of the chairs designed for human proportions. Most of the station's furniture was adjustable to accommodate different species, but their quarters had been set up specifically for the human delegation. I cannot tell you everything, she said quietly, but I can tell you this much. Earth's intelligence services provided detailed profiles on all major coalition delegates before we left home. General Krathzar's personality and behavior patterns made him a predictable target. Vraxians respect strength and direct challenge. They despise what they see as weakness or deception. If I had responded to his insults with diplomatic words or legal arguments, he would have dismissed humanity entirely. But by challenging him to combat, I showed courage. That is something Vraxians understand. Lisa leaned forward. But can you actually win? That is the part I do not understand. Your record is impressive, but there is nothing in it that suggests you can fight a Vraxian general. Maya's small smile was almost mysterious. My official record shows what the military wanted other nations and potential allies to know about me. Some aspects of my training were not included in that record. Before either of them could ask more questions, Maya stood up. I need to train. The station has a gymnasium that should work for what I need. I will be there for several hours each day. Please continue handling the diplomatic communications and monitoring coalition reactions. Over the next 3 days, Maya followed a strict routine. She woke early, before the station's artificial day cycle began. She spent an hour in meditation, then went to the gymnasium. The facility was large and well-equipped, designed to serve the exercise needs of many different species. Maya usually chose times when few others were present. Alex and Lisa took turns observing her training, trying to understand what gave her such confidence. What they saw confused them more than it reassured them. Maya did not practice anything that looked like combat. Instead, she moved through slow, flowing sequences that reminded them of dance or perhaps Tai Chi. Her movements were graceful and controlled, but they did not seem powerful or aggressive. Sometimes she practiced falling, rolling smoothly across the padded floor and coming back to her feet in one continuous motion. Sometimes she stood perfectly still for long periods, barely breathing. Sometimes she moved at sudden explosive speed, striking at invisible targets with her hands and feet. But these bursts lasted only seconds before she returned to the slow, flowing movements. I do not understand. Lisa whispered to Alex as they watched from the observation area above the gymnasium. How is any of this going to help against something that can tear her apart? Alex shook his head. He was just as confused. He had trained in military combat systems. He knew how to fight. What Maya was doing looked nothing like any fighting system he recognized, except perhaps some ancient martial arts that were more philosophy than practical combat. Meanwhile, throughout the station, the upcoming contest had become the only topic of conversation. Species from across the coalition sent messages of support or mockery to the human delegation. Most assumed Maya's defeat was certain. Some expressed admiration for her courage while mourning her foolishness. A few offered advice or assistance, though none of it seemed particularly helpful. On Earth, the reaction was intense. The media covered every angle of the story. Military experts analyzed the physical differences between humans and Vraxians. Political commentators debated whether Maya's action was brave or reckless. Public opinion was divided between those who saw her as a hero and those who blamed her for risking humanity's future on an impossible fight. But in certain restricted facilities, among people with higher security clearances, the reaction was different. These people knew things about Maya Brooks that were not in her public record. They knew about the programs she had been part of, the training she had received, the capabilities she possessed. They watched the news coverage with quiet confidence, though they could tell no one why they felt that confidence. General Krathazar spent his 3 days very differently from Maya. He gave numerous interviews to coalition media outlets, all of which portrayed him as supremely confident. He promised to be as gentle as possible with the fragile human, though he acknowledged that some injury was inevitable given the physical disparity. He expressed regret that humanity had chosen such a foolish path, but said he would honor the contest and teach them an important lesson about knowing their limitations. The Vraxian delegation celebrated constantly, treating the upcoming fight as entertainment rather than a serious challenge. They made no secret of their contempt for Maya's chances. Some of them placed bets on how quickly the fight would end. The consensus was less than 1 minute. On the evening before the contest, the coalition arranged a formal dinner for all delegates. It was meant to be a neutral social event, but the tension in the air was thick enough to taste. The hall was large and elegant, with food and drink suitable for dozens of different biological systems. Species mingled and talked, forming the temporary alliances and rivalries that were normal in galactic politics. Maya attended with Alex and Lisa flanking her protectively. She wore her dress uniform and moved through the crowd calmly, nodding politely to various delegates but not engaging in long conversations. She was observing. She watched which species aligned themselves with the Vraxians and which seemed uncomfortable with General Krathzar's aggressive confidence. She made mental notes about potential allies and opponents for humanity's future in the coalition. About halfway through the evening, General Krathzar approached her. He was surrounded by his officers, all of them large and imposing. The general held a drinking vessel in one of his 4 hands, and his movement suggested he had consumed a significant amount of Vraxian alcohol. The crowd around them fell silent. Everyone turned to watch. This confrontation was too interesting to miss. General Krathzar looked down at Maya from his towering height. His red eyes were slightly unfocused, but his voice was clear enough. "Human female," he said, his tone almost friendly. "I wish to offer you a final opportunity to withdraw with some dignity and tact. You could claim illness or injury. The matter would be quietly forgotten. Your species could reapply for coalition membership in a few decades, after you have matured further. There is no shame in recognizing when a challenge is beyond your capabilities." Maya looked up at the massive alien warrior. Around them, dozens of species watched and waited to see how she would respond. This was her last chance to back down, to save herself from certain injury or worse. She smiled politely and spoke in a voice that carried clearly through the silent hall. "General Krathzar, I appreciate your concern for my well-being. It shows a kindness that I had not expected from our earlier interaction. However, I must decline your generous offer. I am looking forward to our match tomorrow. I hope you will not hold back on my account. I want the coalition to see what both of our species are truly capable of when tested." For just a moment, something shifted in General Krathzar's expression. His eyes focused more sharply on her face. There was something in the human girl's voice, a quiet certainty that should not have been there. She should have been frightened or at least nervous. Instead, she seemed almost eager, but the general had drunk enough to dismiss the strange feeling. He was the champion of the Vraxian Empire. He had won hundreds of battles. This tiny human could not possibly pose a real threat. His momentary uncertainty faded, replaced by his usual confidence. "As you wish," he said, inclining his head slightly. "Tomorrow, then." He withdrew with his entourage, leaving Maya standing alone in the center of the hall. Slowly, conversation resumed. Many species looked at Maya with pity or admiration for her courage in the face of certain defeat. Maya stood there for a moment longer, then turned and walked calmly back to where Alex and Lisa waited. Both of them looked sick with worry, but neither said anything. They escorted her back to their quarters shortly after. That night, while most of the station buzzed with excitement and angst, the main arena of Sanctuary Point had been built to host competitions and ceremonies involving species from across the galaxy. Its floor could be adjusted to different gravity levels, its atmosphere could be modified to suit various biological requirements, and its size could accommodate crowds of thousands. For the contest between Maya Brooks and General Krathzar, the configuration was set to neutral standards. Standard gravity that both humans and Vraxians found comfortable, normal breathable air, a flat circular floor 50 meters across made of a material that provided good traction without being slippery. The stands filled early. Delegates from every coalition species came to watch. Some brought recording devices to document the event for their home worlds. Others simply wanted to witness what most expected would be a quick and brutal demonstration of why young species should respect their elders. The atmosphere was electric with anticipation. Maya stood in the preparation chamber beneath the arena floor. Alex and Lisa were with her, along with a medical officer from the coalition staff. The medical officer was a being from a species called the Helix, whose natural talents included healing. The Helix officer looked worried as they examined Maya with scanning equipment. "Your vital signs are remarkably calm," the Helix officer said in accented trade language. "Either you are very brave or you do not understand what is about to happen." Maya smiled gently at the concerned alien. "Perhaps both, Doctor. Or perhaps I simply trust my training." The Helix officer made a sound that might have been a sigh and finished their examination. They provided Maya with a small injector containing emergency medical nanites just in case. These could stabilize injuries if the fight went badly. Maya accepted them with thanks and attached the injector to her belt. She wore a simple combat suit, flexible and lightweight. It was made of advanced synthetic fibers that could resist some damage, while still allowing full freedom of movement. The suit was marked with Earth's insignia, a blue and green circle representing their home planet. She wore no armor beyond that. She carried no weapons. Alex checked her suit one final time, making sure everything was secure. His hand shook slightly. Lisa stood nearby, her face pale but her voice steady. "You do not have to do this," Lisa said quietly. "Even now we could find a way out. A medical emergency, a diplomatic incident, something." Maya looked at both of them. These were her friends as well as her colleagues. They had served together for 2 years. She understood their fear and appreciated their loyalty. "I do have to do this," she said gently. "Not just for Earth, but for every species that will come after us. The Coalition needs to learn that strength comes in many forms. Today, one way or another, they will learn that lesson." A tone sounded, indicating it was time. Maya took a deep breath and walked toward the lift that would carry her up into the arena. Alex and Lisa followed as far as they were allowed, then had to stop at the barrier. They watched her rise up through the floor, emerging into the bright lights and roaring crowd. The noise was overwhelming. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species made sounds of excitement, curiosity, and anticipation. Maya walked to her designated starting position, her steps steady and sure. She looked small and alone in the vast space of the arena floor. Then General Krathzar emerged from the opposite side. The Vraxian section of the crowd erupted in cheers and war cries. The general looked even more massive in the open space of the arena than he had in the assembly hall. His scales gleamed under the bright lights, looking like polished black metal. His forearms flexed and gestured to the crowd, each one thick with corded muscle. His red eyes glowed with confidence and anticipation. He wore minimal armor, just enough to satisfy safety requirements. A simple chest plate and guards for his legs. Nothing that would restrict his movement or suggest he was taking any real risk. He carried no weapons. He would not need them. The referee moved to the center of the arena floor. This was an elder being from a species called the Keepers, who served as neutral judges throughout Coalition space. The Keeper's voice was amplified to carry throughout the arena. We are gathered to witness a contest of honor between General Krathzar of the Vraxian Empire and Lieutenant Commander Maya Brooks of Earth. The rules are as follows. The contest continues until one participant submits, is rendered unconscious, or is unable to continue. Lethal force is strictly prohibited. Any violation will result in immediate disqualification and severe diplomatic consequences. Do both participants understand and accept these rules? Understood and accepted. General Krathzar's voice boomed across the arena. Understood and accepted. Maya's voice was quieter but clear. The Keeper nodded and moved to the edge of the arena floor. Maya and General Krathzar faced each other across the empty space. The crowd fell silent. The moment stretched out, tense with possibility. Then the signal sounded. General Krathzar moved immediately. His strategy was obvious and practical. Use his overwhelming advantages in size and strength to end the fight quickly. He covered the distance between them in seconds, his forearms reaching out to grab, to crush, to overpower. Maya did not retreat. To the shock of everyone watching, she moved forward, directly toward the charging general. But her movement was not straight. She angled and shifted, her body moving with fluid grace. She slipped inside his reaching arms like water flowing around stones. The general's hands closed on empty air. Maya was already past him, moving with a speed that seemed impossible. As she passed, her hand touched his lower back, a strike so quick and light that many in the crowd missed it entirely. General Krathzar stumbled. His left leg buckled for just a moment before he caught himself. Confusion flashed across his reptilian features. He spun to face Maya, but she had already repositioned herself several meters away, watching him with calm focus. The crowd erupted in surprised murmurs. That was not how this was supposed to go. The general should have caught her on his first rush. The fight should already be over. General Krathzar attacked again, more cautiously this time. He used all four arms in coordination, creating a web of grabbing hands that should have been impossible to evade. His strategy was sound. Cover all possible escape routes. Force the smaller opponent into his grip. But Maya moved like she was dancing. Her body bent and flowed in ways that seemed to defy normal human anatomy. She was not where his hands expected her to be. She ducked under one arm, rolled beneath another, slipped past the third, and deflected the fourth with minimal contact. And each time she evaded, she struck back. Quick touches to nerve clusters, to joints, to pressure points that existed even in Vraxian biology, despite their different evolutionary path. Each strike was precise and deliberate. None of them seemed to cause serious damage, but the accumulation began to tell. General Krathzar's movements became slightly less coordinated. His breathing grew heavier. His forearms did not work together quite as smoothly as before. The crowd watched in growing amazement as the impossible began to seem merely improbable. The general changed tactics. He stopped trying to grab her and instead attempted to strike with his fists, using his arms as weapons. His punches were powerful enough to shatter stone. Each one cut through the air with terrible force. Maya avoided them all. She read his body language, anticipated his movements, and was already moving before his strikes arrived. Her training had prepared her for this. She had spent years learning to fight against opponents who were bigger, stronger, and faster than herself. She had learned from masters of ancient martial arts, from modern military combat experts, and from specialists in alien biology. Now all that training came together. She waited for her moment. The general threw a powerful combination, all four arms striking in sequence. Maya moved through the attacks like smoke, untouchable. As the last punch passed by her head, she stepped in close and struck upward. Her palm hit the general's chest right over his primary heart. The strike looked gentle, almost delicate, but it was perfectly placed and perfectly timed, carrying the focused energy of her entire body moving in unified motion. General Krathzar staggered backward. His red eyes went wide. Something was wrong. His chest felt strange, his breathing disrupted. He had been hit harder in countless battles, but never had a simple strike affected him this way. He roared in frustration and charged again, using his full mass to try to simply crush the small human against the arena floor. It was a desperate move, abandoning technique for pure aggression. Maya dropped low, sweeping his legs with a technique that used his own momentum against him. The massive Vraxian general crashed to the floor with an impact that shook the entire arena. The floor trembled. Thousands of beings in the stands felt the vibration through their seats. The sound of the general's fall echoed through the vast space, and Maya stood over him, calm and centered, watching as he struggled to rise. Her breathing was controlled. Her stance was ready. She was not tired. She was not afraid. She was a warrior, and she was just getting started. General Krathzar pushed himself up from the arena floor. His pride hurt more than his body, though several of his joints ached in ways they had not in years. He rose to his full height, all four arms braced, and stared down at the small human, who had somehow knocked him down. Around them, the arena was silent. Thousands of beings watched in disbelief. This was not supposed to be happening. The mighty Vraxian general was supposed to win easily, yet here he was, struggling against a human girl who looked like she could be broken with one hand. Maya had not moved. She stood exactly where she was, waiting for him to fully recover. She was not pressing her advantage. She was not celebrating her success. She was simply ready. Her stance balanced and her eyes focused. The general felt something he had not experienced in decades. Uncertainty. This human girl was not fighting like any opponent he had faced before. She was not trying to match his strength. She was not attempting to overpower him. Instead, she was using his own force against him, finding weaknesses in his defenses that he did not know existed. He charged again. This time, desperation fueled his attack. He could not lose. The honor of the Vraxian Empire depended on his victory. His own reputation, built over centuries of warfare, would be destroyed if he fell to this tiny creature. His four arms moved in a coordinated assault, striking from multiple angles simultaneously. It should have been impossible to defend against. But Maya flowed between the attacks like water finding gaps in stone. Her movements were beautiful and terrible at the same time, combining grace with deadly precision. As he struck, she countered. Her hand touched his upper right arm, and suddenly that limb went numb. Another touch to his left knee made his leg buckle. A third strike to his shoulder sent waves of disruption through his nervous system. None of the strikes caused visible damage, but each one weakened him further. General Krathzar realized with growing horror that she was not trying to hurt him. She was systematically shutting down his ability to fight, targeting nerve clusters and pressure points with surgical accuracy. She knew Vraxian anatomy better than he did. Someone had studied his species extensively and taught her exactly where to strike. He tried again to use his mass advantage, rushing forward to simply crush her with his weight. Maya dropped into a low stance and struck upward as he came at her. Her palm connected with his chest again, in the exact same spot as before. This time the effect was much worse. The general's breathing stopped entirely for several seconds. His vision blurred. His forearms hung limp at his sides. He took one more step forward on pure momentum, then his legs gave out and he dropped to his knees. The arena was completely silent now. Nobody cheered. Nobody made a sound. Everyone simply stared as the impossible unfolded before their eyes. Maya stood in front of the kneeling general. She was breathing harder now, but still in control. She looked at him with an expression that was neither triumphant nor mocking. It was respectful, the look of one warrior acknowledging another. She spoke quietly, but in the silence her voice carried throughout the arena. General Krathzar, you are a formidable opponent. Your experience and strength are worthy of respect. But you made a mistake. You underestimated my species based on appearance rather than capability. You judged us by our size and age, not by what we have learned during our time in the universe. She paused, letting her words sink in. The general tried to rise but could not. His body would not obey his commands. The strikes to his pressure points had temporarily disrupted his nervous system. He was not seriously injured, but he was completely unable to continue fighting. Maya turned to address the entire assembly, her voice growing stronger. Humanity has fought for survival since we first existed. We have faced predators larger and stronger than ourselves. We have endured ice ages and plagues and countless wars among our own kind. We learned early that strength alone is not enough. We had to develop technique, strategy, and the ability to adapt. These lessons are written into our history, learned through thousands of years of struggle. She looked around at the thousands of alien faces watching her, making eye contact with delegates from dozens of species. We do not come to the coalition seeking to conquer anyone. We do not desire to dominate. We have seen what that path leads to on our own world, and we have rejected it. But we will not be dismissed. We will not be treated as children or as inferiors. We ask only for the chance to prove ourselves as equals, to contribute to the coalition and to learn from those who came before us. Maya turned back to General Krathzar. The massive Vraxian was slowly regaining control of his limbs, though he remained on his knees. She extended her hand toward him, offering to help him rise. It was a gesture loaded with meaning. She was acknowledging his dignity even in defeat. She was offering respect to a fallen opponent. She was showing that humans understood honor and compassion as well as they understood combat. General Krathzar stared at her offered hand. It was small and delicate compared to any of his 4 hands, yet it had defeated him. Behind that small hand was a strength he had not anticipated, a kind of power that came from knowledge and skill, rather than raw physical force. Slowly, he reached out with one of his massive hands. He could not actually be lifted by her, of course. The weight difference made that impossible, but the gesture was what mattered. She offered help and he accepted it. He pulled himself to his feet while she maintained contact, the symbolic connection between them. He stood, towering over her once again, but the dynamic between them had fundamentally changed. He was no longer the proud warrior looking down on an inferior. He was a defeated opponent who had learned an important lesson. "You have won, Lieutenant Commander Brooks," he said, his voice carrying through the silent arena. "The Vraxian Empire will honor the terms of our agreement. Humanity will have our sponsorship for coalition membership." The arena erupted. The sound was deafening as thousands of beings reacted simultaneously. The human section was crying and cheering. Many other species were applauding, impressed by what they had witnessed. Even some Vraxians were making sounds of approval, recognizing that their general had been fairly defeated by superior technique. But Maya's attention was focused on one being whose reaction mattered more than all the others combined. The coalition arbiter was rising from their seat in the highest tier of the arena. The ancient being moved slowly but with clear purpose. They were coming down to the arena floor. Everyone fell silent again as the arbiter approached. This was the oldest and most respected member of the entire coalition, a being who had seen civilizations rise and fall across millennia. Their judgment carried absolute authority. The arbiter reached the edge of the arena floor and stepped onto it. They moved toward Maya and General Krathzar with slow, measured steps. When they spoke, their voice was thin with age but filled with power. "We have witnessed something important today," the arbiter said, addressing the entire assembly. "Not just a contest between 2 warriors, but a demonstration of what this coalition should represent. We have become comfortable, perhaps even complacent. We judge new species by familiar measures, by size and military strength and age. We forget that intelligence and adaptability are also forms of power." The arbiter turned to look at Maya directly. "Humanity has shown us something today. They have reminded us that strength comes in many forms and that wisdom can be found in young species as well as old. Lieutenant Commander Brooks, you fought with skill and honor. You showed mercy when you could have humiliated your opponent. You demonstrated that your species understands both warfare and compassion." The arbiter then turned to General Krathzar. "And you, General, have also shown honor today. You accepted defeat with dignity and kept your word. The Vraxian Empire's commitment to sponsor humanity will strengthen both our peoples." The ancient being faced the assembly once more. "I formally accept humanity's application for coalition membership. Their probationary period will be supervised by the Vraxian Empire, as agreed, ensuring they have strong allies as they learn their place among us. Let all species here witness that Earth has earned its place through courage, skill, and the wisdom to know that victory need not require cruelty." The arena erupted again, this time with genuine celebration. The human delegation rushed onto the floor, with Alex and Lisa reaching Maya first. Both of them grabbed her in a fierce hug, tears streaming down their faces. All around them, delegates from friendly species approached to offer congratulations. As the celebration continued, General Krathzar waited patiently. When the initial excitement calmed slightly, he approached Maya once more. Away from the largest crowds, he spoke to her quietly. "I must know," he said, his red eyes focused intently on her face.
"How did you learn to fight this way?"
"Those techniques, that knowledge of my species' anatomy, where did it come from?" Maya smiled slightly. Earth has many martial traditions, General. Some are thousands of years old. We developed systems to allow smaller, weaker individuals to defend themselves against larger, stronger opponents. We studied leverage and pressure points and how to redirect force rather than oppose it directly. When we learned about other species in the galaxy, we simply applied those same principles to new anatomies. The general was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. My people have relied on our natural advantages for so long that we stopped